Simon O'Connor.
I love it today as we hear from opposition MPs talking so negatively, a sort of a Chicken Little approach really, and then you go past billboards which say vote positive. The contradiction is incredibly inherent. They talk about leadership when none of them are behind their lead. No cunliffe in them, that's right. Even in my own electorate, the 2 Labour Party billboards that have been put up in total, all 2 of them are illegal, in the wrong place, shouldn't be there. And very interesting, the candidate doesn't want to have his face next to the face of the party leader. And this is, well, yeah, my colleague on my left asks why. Look, I don't know. I understand that was discussed at length today in their caucus and doing the numbers as well. Vote positive, they say. Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to take a call on this bill, well, bills really, what is effectively the Appropriation and Bill Imprest Supply Bill. Mr. Speaker, National is the party of responsible government and careful management of the economy. Labour and its friends have outlined a grocery list of reckless spending and shocking plans for economic mismanagement, and we've heard just an entree, if you like, of that from the previous speaker. Spend, spend, spend. Their ideas, but you, ladies and gentlemen, the Kiwi public, have to pay for it. But let's have a look at some contrasts. Let's talk about the national government. More than half of the 350 business growth agenda actions across the 6 areas are either complete or in implementation phase. New Zealand's economy grew by 3.8% in the year to 31 March, one of the 5 fastest growing economies in the developed world. And growth, Mr. Speaker, is forecast to reach 4% this year, a far cry from the recession that we inherited in 2008. And I think that's really important for people to bear in mind. Certainly this side of the House has reminded the opposition time and time again, we inherited an economy in recession in 2008, and we have worked darn hard since then to bring it back to surplus. Mr. Speaker, average wages have increased by $3,000 in the past 2 years, and they are forecast to grow by around another $7,000 to about $62,300 by 2018. The great thing is that there are some members on the opposition who might be learning about real wages in a few weeks' time. Mr. Speaker, this government is proud that we have created an extra 84,000 jobs in the year to March, and Treasury forecasts about 172,000 jobs to be created over the next 4 years. 4 years under, I'm sure, this national government. Mr. Speaker, the cost of living increases are low. Inflation was just 1.6% in the year to June, well below the average weekly wage increase of 3.2%. Unemployment is coming down. Treasury forecasts it will fall to about 4.4% by mid-2018 from a 6%, where unemployment sits at the moment, about 6%. That has been falling. We've fallen the rate to get to 6%, and as I noted, Treasury forecasts that down to 4.4%. The balance of payments, that's popped up a few times today. The balance of payments deficits, look, the difference, Mr. Speaker, between New Zealand, what we earn and what we spend, narrowed to 2.8% of GDP in the year to 31 March 2014. It's helped by our record exports, and it's less than half the deficit 6 years ago. And finally, our better government focus now is on a smaller number of 62 key priorities. This government was not afraid to set benchmarks to test ourselves against, and we will be working to help more Kiwis internationalise, sell their products overseas, encourage innovation, make it easier to raise capital, lift young people's achievement, and I've heard colleagues talk to that earlier, and make places safer. But in contrast, what do we hear from the other side? Well, did Labour support any of the savings that this government made to ensure the country came back into surplus? No, not at all. Did Labour support welfare reform that has seen New Zealanders get back to work? No. Did Labour support tax changes to reduce taxes paid by every single New Zealander? No, not at all. Did they support a 90-day probationary period? No, they didn't. Did they support changes to the Resource Management Act so people could build houses faster and support the growth in business? No. Did they support the housing accords, including in Auckland? No, not at all. Did they support the making of the Hobbit movies so that 5,000 jobs could be created? No. What about 3,000 jobs in the South Island when it came to TY Point? No. I would have thought yes, but no again. Did they support irrigation for our farms? No. Hell, indeed. And does it support gas or oil exploration? Well, depending on who you're talking to, it moves around, but the answer pretty much is no. And does it support foreign investment or skilled migrants? No. And ultimately, will it support any free trade agreement with the largest economy in the world? No.
Does it support their leader?
Does it support their leader? I had forgotten that one. No. Hey, but when it comes to new taxes, though, when it comes to new taxes, Labor is very happy to say yes. And they're all into the capital gains tax. Mr. Speaker, earlier this afternoon, you know, there are times, though, you do wonder about a carbon tax with so much hot air coming from the other side. Let's start on the capital gains tax. We heard earlier David Parker complain that he didn't get a chance to debate Labor's CGT last night. He was very upset he couldn't debate against the Minister of Finance. He had to make do with me. And at that time at the debate, he mentioned how disappointed he was to be engaging with a mere backbencher. Well, given how badly David Parker fared in last night's debate against this mere backbencher, I would have thought he'd have been glad to have not had to face off one of the finest finance ministers in New Zealand history. See, David Parker is not necessarily renowned for his humility, but I have to say I'd be happy to help him become a bit more humble by debating him on the CGT at any time. You see, Mr. Speaker, you cannot talk about growing jobs, the economy, innovation, and want a capital gains tax. It's an inherent contradiction. You see, a growing economy like New Zealand needs risk takers. It needs people who are prepared to take risks and be prepared to be rewarded for those risks. As I noted last night, a capital gains tax taxes the entrepreneurial. It taxes the very people who want to invest in jobs, innovate ideas, new businesses, in the hope of winning and making a profit. You see, we only need to look at various businesses across New Zealand where young people in particular, but not exclusively, have taken their business idea, taken the risks with their own capital, and either won or lost. And you see, within the capital gains tax debate, Labor, who wants now the government to take a share in the risk, doesn't want to actually take a share in the losses, but you won't hear them talking about that. We heard an earlier speaker talk about the CGT will make people sell their houses and so forth. Why on earth would you sell your house if you were going to be taxed on the capital gain? It makes no sense. What you see from other countries which the opposition laud is that people continue to pump money into their homes. More pools, more double glazed windows, more of everything to increase the value, but not sell. At the end of the day, a CGT stifles business, it stifles innovation, and it stifles job creation. And there are reasons, though, that National wants to talk about good economic management and growth. It's the money that ultimately makes our way of life possible. It allows us to fund the many social programs that Kiwis value and deserve. We're not talking about money for the greedy or to amass vast hoards of gold like some dragon under a mountain. We're talking about our hospitals and our schools, welfare and working for families. New Zealanders need to know that when Labor says no to economic growth, when the Greens say no to resource development, it costs ordinary Kiwis. Their refusal to grow the economy costs it all. It makes the tax pool smaller, it shrinks government and necessitates cuts to vital programs. Mr. Speaker, let's be very clear. When Labor and the Greens obstruct development, they hurt the poorest and the most vulnerable sectors of our society. The affluent can do without government support. Cutbacks don't hurt them. But when you cripple our economy like Labor and Greens suggest, they are inflicting great pain on our poorest. That is why National focuses on the economy, a strong one at that, the creation of jobs, fostering rising income, a secure safety net for all. Mr. Speaker, every time Labor and Greens say no to economic development and careful management, they're cutting the very strings that make up our social safety net.
I understand the next call is a split call. Dr. David Clark, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, what a lot of bunkum from that member. And I have to say, I'm not surprised.